So while WION continues to bring you live coverage of Cyclone Fani, for now let's also gain some perspective on the cyclone from Dr. Ajit Tyagi, former Director General of the Indian Meteorological Department, who's joining me live from the WION studio. Thank you so much, Mr. Tyagi, for joining us and eking out your precious time for WION. To begin with, you just saw those visuals coming in from West Bengal right now. Extremely choppy waters. The landfall has already taken place in Puri. How crucial is this landfall at this hour?
First of all, let me compliment your reporters who are reporting live from the field.
Thank you, sir.
As you could see that, yes, as predicted, the cyclone has made a landfall this morning between 8 and 10 o'clock near Puri. What is good news is that good forecast by India Met Department and necessary preparedness by the state and central agencies. They evacuated 1 million people from the coastal areas, unlike 99 super cyclone,
right.
we lost 10,000 precious lives. Similarly, all trains and the air traffic also got timely cancelled, so that any untoward such mishaps are avoided now. So this is a very good news. It's a natural phenomena, so once severity of the storm is known, we can take necessary precautions, which have been done in this case. Cyclones in month of April are rather rare, so this is not a normal cyclone. In last 118 years of our records with the IMD, only 14 cyclones formed in the Bay of Bengal.
Right.
Only 14 cyclones. Of these, 2 were the significant cyclone. One, the Nargis cyclone in 2008, and this is the second cyclone, which is of that severe intensity of extremely severe cyclone. So these are not a normal feature. They are rare events, but well predicted. This particular storm was being tracked from 26th of April when it was over the Southeast Bay and Equatorial Ocean. So since then, its track and the predictions were being made, and almost like a book,
right.
bookish predictions, they have been very, very close to the what the predictions were.
Right.
So this is a good part that we are better prepared now. Good
Yes.
observing system, the satellite, the radars, good prediction system, and good communications, and correspondingly the state and central government's preparedness over the period has improved so much that in the world now, our evacuation of 1 million people is a record.
It's interesting that you mentioned the preparedness, because
exactly.
Let's not forget that the cyclone is striking India at a time when the country is in the middle
exactly.
of the Lok Sabha elections also. But coming to the severity of the storm, sir, you just mentioned that post the landfall, we'll be able to gauge the severity of the storm. But what are the factors that go in to decide how severe the cyclone is?
The cyclone has got 3 or 4 components. One is the wind speed, which you are mentioning now.
Right.
Between 180 to 220
kilometers.
They are the extremely severe cyclone. Then we have got the storm surge. The storm surge play a very important role. Many of the deaths take place in the coastal areas because of the storm surge, people if they are not evacuated. Third is the strong heavy rainfall.
Right.
This heavy rainfall, which in interior areas, see in the last 2 cyclones also, it is not at the time of landfall people died. It is interior people who are not prepared because of heavy rainfall and the floods, people died.
Absolutely.
So these are 3 important factors.
So that is what I'm going to come to next. Now that the landfall has taken place, do we now actually fear inland flooding as a threat? Also, could the wind speed lead to a surge in tidal wave?
You see, as far as the surge is concerned, since the landfall has taken place, whatever damage because of the storm surge was to take place must have taken place.
Right.
The actual report will come only after the SMOOs and our relief teams are inspecting the coastal areas. So as far as storm surge and tidals in the coastal areas will be there, but not to that extent, because as the storm is now weakening, it is on the land, so it will weaken now gradually. As predicted, by tomorrow it will become a severe cyclone, and then the cyclone when it reaches Bangladesh. So cyclones will, but as far as heavy rainfall is concerned, because it is in the bands, it's not that it is concentrated only in the eye. They are the bands, the outer bands, so rainfall can take place 80, 100, 200 kilometers away also from the center. So the heavy rainfall and flooding are 2 important. Now flooding part here, since it is a pre-monsoon, as a dry, there are no already, see the soil is moist. So the flooding to that extent which takes place post-monsoon, because your reservoirs are full, so you release the water when heavy rainfall takes place. In this case, flooding to that degree may not be there, but positively the heavy rainfall and some weak structures and all that can get damaged. The winds also will weaken, but we need to be cautious for next 24 hours in the inland areas also.
It's interesting to also note how the cyclone, Doctor, has affected the rainfall pattern in India, because earlier we were being told that it will also pass Chennai, but it bypassed Chennai, and Chennai's temperatures, of course, remain actually scorching at this moment. But at the same time, now you just mentioned that, you know, there is a threat of heavy rainfall, which according to your calculations, which are the areas which can expect heavy rainfall?
Yeah, so it starts from the north, Andhra, three districts of Andhra Pradesh, then entire Odisha, West Bengal, Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh adjoining areas. These are the belt which the heavy rainfall will take place in next 24 to 36 hours.
All right.
Okay, so these are the areas. You mentioned about the Chennai or say Tamil Nadu getting affected by this. This was not predicted by IMD. IMD always was saying it will skirt. But there were various, you see, other forecasters in news channels, naturally, as it was approaching Tamil Nadu.
But do you not agree that it has sucked in all the moisture from Chennai, and which is why the temperatures have increased?
This happens, yeah. They are big systems, so they have to draw moisture from somewhere. So from those warmer seas of the southern Bay of Bengal did provide the moisture. It's not the land which provides the moisture. Right. It is the oceans which provide the moisture.
Doctor, also, how do you gauge the severity of the storm? It's classified under category 4. What does that mean for us? Also, let's not forget that several analysts are calling it one of the worst cyclones India has experienced in the past 2 decades. Do you agree with that?
No, I'll not agree to that entirely. Well, this is a Cat 4. Categorization of these 1 to 5 is done in US, not in India. We have got our own classification, but equivalent wind speeds or the severity of extremely severe cyclone, which is there equal to Cat 4 cyclone is there. We had of similar intensity cyclones earlier also, but in this month, in end of April or beginning of May, it is one of the severe most cyclones. So there is no denying of that. But if we see entire period, there had been cyclones of the same intensity earlier also.
All right. What do you think could be a potential cause of worry for the Coast Guards and the NDRF at the moment?
I see there are two. One is because of the strong winds, the communication, both electricity and communication towers, the trees falling.
Trees have already been uprooted as images have been shared by the NDRF.
So these are, and of course, because of heavy rainfall and strong winds, the weak structures are likely to be damaged. There will be some loose sheets flying and causing some deaths. So these are standard part. But yes, exact picture will emerge only after, say, by evening when the storm has passed through the that area and ground survey is done.
All right. And while we speak, I'm also, Doctor, I'm also joined in by Mr. O.P. Singh from Lucknow. He's a former NDRF DGP. Let's quickly go across to Mr. O.P. Singh. Sir, thank you so much for sparing us your precious time and joining us here on WION. How do you gauge the severity of the landfall that's just taken place in Puri? How severe do you think is the cyclone at this hour? All right,
thank you so much for inviting me. Of course, it looks like a very severe. Hello?
Right, Mr. Singh,
can you hear me?
Yes, I can now.
Yeah, I said thank you so much for inviting me on your channel. This is certainly a very severe cyclone. If you look at the speed of the wind and the kind of severity it has damaged and it is likely to damage. But at the same time, look at the enormous exercise being undertaken by the state government, by the central government. I'm told that almost 11 lakhs of people have already been evacuated. And if you look at, say, 20 years back when you had the super cyclone in 1999 in Odisha, the casualty was very high, almost more than 10,000 people died. And then we had subsequent years, we had Cyclone Hudhud, Cyclone Fani. In fact, I was myself personally involved in Cyclone Hudhud and other cyclones. So I could correlate with all these cyclones with a very clear memory. The most important thing that over the last couple of years, there have been significant progress in developing institutions, developing policies and legislations in our country.
Right.
And that is how we see that there has been a significant strengthening of capacities. So all these things is, they're going to matter a lot, but so far as the severity of the cyclone is concerned, I think the impact would be known only after a couple of hours or so and so. Yeah.
Right, very rightly said. The impact will be known in the coming hours, Mr. Singh, as was also pointed out by Dr. Ajit Tyagi, who's joining us from WION studio. Through all the experience that you've had, and you just mentioned that, do you think India is better prepared today as compared to previous years when it comes to dealing with cyclones and ensuring there's zero casualty?
Certainly, our country is much more on the right track. In fact, if you, as I was mentioning earlier, the super cyclone of 1999 killed more than 10,000 people. But if you look at the number of casualties in Cyclone Fani or Cyclone Hudhud, the figure couldn't go beyond 2 digits. So that was our achievement. And over the last couple of years, we have a very robust system of response mechanism. We have a number of mechanisms. So as the technological advancement is concerned, we have a very, very advanced warning system. And because of that, a lot of people could be evacuated. We could not evacuate those number of people in Super Cyclone 1999. So I personally feel, not being former chief of NDRF, but certainly as a citizen of the country, that a lot of progress has been made, and we have a very resilient, resourceful population. We have a very enabling national law, national act at our place. And ever since we had the super cyclone and Gujarat earthquake in 2001, we have learned a very hard way. And I think we are going in the right direction. And now the challenges would be many more. In fact, what I saw in Cyclone Hudhud in 2014, that, the post-cyclone, you have a lot of things to do. For example, the communication network. You have a lot of trees falling on the roads, those roads which particularly lead to essential services like hospitals, schools, and so many other things. In fact, NDRF was pressed into service in a big way, in a very extensive way during Cyclone Hudhud, when they had to clear the trees strewn on the roadside. Then you have the public distribution system. That's also something very, very challenging. And at the same time, you have to restore the communications network like airports or railway stations and all that. In fact, I remember when Cyclone Hudhud took place in 2014, I was holding the charge of additional DG of CISF as well, where I was looking after the civil aviation sector. And we did a lot of work there by opening of Visakhapatnam airport manually, because the other systems had almost collapsed and failed. So these things have to be taken into account, and I think the administration, the local administration, must be doing it.
All right. I'll request you, Mr. Singh, to also stay with us as we also get in more guests. I'm also joined in by Mr. Mrityunjay Mahapatra from the Indian Met Department, and he's joining us live from New Delhi. Let me quickly go across to Mr. Mahapatra. Mr. Mahapatra, we were just hearing from Mr. O.P. Singh, who's also been a former chief of the NDRF. Mr. Singh rightly mentioned that India is now adequately and better prepared when it comes to dealing with cyclones in previous years. But do you think that the severity of the cyclones is now just going to get worse with the increase in temperatures across the globe?
Yeah, worldwide there has been a concern about the impact of climate change on the tropical cyclones, but the impact is not uniform in different ocean basins. So if you look at the North Indian Ocean Basin, based on the past data of, say, about 120 years, which India Meteorological Department possesses, it is found that there is no change in the frequency over the Arabian Sea, but there is decrease in frequency of tropical storms over the Bay of Bengal in recent years. Considering the intensity or severity of the cyclones, the Bay of Bengal cyclones do not show increase in severity, whereas the cyclones over the Arabian Sea show some kind of increase in severity. However, because the number of cyclones developing over the Arabian Sea is quite less, the researchers and scientists have the low confidence in telling and attributing the global warming to the rise in severe cyclones over the Arabian Sea.
All right, Mr. Mahapatra, I'll request you to also stay with us for now, but let me go back to Mr. O.P. Singh, who's the DGP of UP and the former chief of NDRF. Mr. Singh, through all the experience you've garnered as the former chief of NDRF, it would be great if you could share with us some do's and don'ts for all those who've been stuck in this severe cyclone.
You know, we have already have very extensive guidelines so far as the do's and don'ts are concerned. National Disaster Management Authority has issued and has printed out a lot of booklets on that, a lot of manuals on that. But suffice to say is that, you know, that once the evacuation is done, we have to take care of those people who have been evacuated. They have to be put in some shelter homes. Their animals have to be protected. You know, that's very important.
Right.
And particularly for those fishermen who live on the seashores, you know, their livelihood depend on fishing. So their instruments, their equipments, they need to be protected. In fact, once you start evacuating these people, a care should be taken for all these things. And once they are stationed in the shelter homes, the district administration as well as the state administration must look for all these things where they have to be protected from food angle, from public distribution systems, from hygiene. That's very important. The medical care. Because during such period when you have the cyclone impact, a lot of diseases take place and those diseases may spread to so many places. So all these things have to be taken care of, and that is why you need to have expert from medical side, you need to have expert from other areas as well.
Right. Mr. Singh, how can the NDRF now brace up with the looming threat of flooding and heavy rainfall post the landfall?
You know, NDRF is quite well equipped and a very robust organization, and over the years it has grown substantially and exponentially. So far as the cyclone is concerned, the first requirement is evacuation of the people. But so far as the rains are concerned, you need to have boats, proper boats. But I don't know whether these rains are lashing out on those areas where you have the cyclone impact. But certainly for those areas where you have incessant rain, the NDRF boys are well trained for that. They have the divers, they have everything. They have equipments, they have the rubberized inflatable boats also. They have all kinds of equipments. So they certainly go for such evacuation exercises. They certainly go for such exercises where the people's life can be saved and their properties can also be saved and protected and well insured. So that is there. That's the USP of the NDRF. And I'm sure the boys of NDRF spread over the entire state as well as the other parts of the country. I'm told that 54 countries are located there, concentrated. And I tell you one thing, that even the State Disaster Response Force of the Odisha government, it's a very, very professional group. They have been getting training and they are very, very sound in their approach. So I'm sure with the coordination of these two agencies, along with Coast Guard, along with Navy, along with other agencies of the central government, they must be doing a wonderful job.
Right, so protection of the lives and properties of all those stuck in the cyclone. Some very interesting observations made by Mr. Singh. Let me also go across to Mr. Mahapatra from the Indian Met Department, who's joining us live from New Delhi. Mr. Mahapatra, how do you gauge the severity of Cyclone Fani? As we are being told, it is a Category 4 storm. Tell us more about this one.
मुझे तकलीफ डाल दिया आपने अभी टाइम है डिस्कशन में पार्टिसिपेट करने का टाइम नहीं है
All right, Mr. Mahapatra, if you can catch my question, I would like to know about the severity of the storm. We all are aware that it is a Category 4 storm. Mr. Mahapatra, can you hear me? All right, so we're also joined by Dr. Ajit Tyagi, who's the former Director General of the Indian Met Department. Dr. Tyagi, we were talking about the severity of this storm. Would be good if you could elaborate on that, because there's been a lot of brouhaha about how this is one of the worst storms that India has faced in the past 2 decades. Would be good to gain some further clarity.
Yeah, see, it's good to be alarmist on the safer side. So, but since now already landfall has taken place and we know what has been the wind speed, it has been say 180 going up to 200 kilometers per hour. So it is in the category which was predicted. That is the extremely severe cyclone, which is equivalent to Cat 4. But as predicted, and what normally happens is that after the landfall it is going to weaken. So now what is the severe part as far as the landfall process is over? Thereafter, now as it moves inland, it is going to weaken when it approaches tomorrow to West Bengal to a severe cyclone. The intensity of wind and will weaken. So, but then it continues to be on higher side as compared to the normal. So we have to take all precautions, part of it. As far as the severity is concerned, yes, it was predicted to be a very severe cyclone, and this is what is there. And I am so happy that all agencies were prepared and they have taken all necessary actions depending on the severity.
Right. Let me also go across to Mr. O.P. Singh, who's joining us live at this moment. Mr. Singh, we also know that this cyclone has hit India at a very pivotal time, especially when India is in the middle of the Lok Sabha elections. The NDRF and how could the NDRF and other agencies help in aiding a smooth orchestration of the Indian elections?
I wouldn't know that which dates are there for the elections in the state of Odisha and other places, but certainly they can help. And so far as the political, so far as the election management is concerned, perhaps they'll have to work together. The district administration is working wholeheartedly for this, and they have to also synchronize these two activities. So I think it's the local condition has to be judged. The election is going on, and I don't know which sector, which part of Odisha is witnessing election right now. But of course, that has to be kept in mind, that how these two activities can be synchronized and can be more integrated way.
Right. Also, do you think that the NDRF could totally chip in with community awareness programs that could play an integral role now, that not just prior to the landfall, but also now post the landfall? If there's any sort of flooding and rainfall increases, these community awareness programs could play an important role.
Absolutely, absolutely. You have hit the nails. In fact, NDRF has been not only upgrading its skills and professional acumen, but it has also been going in a very extensive, large way about the community awareness program. They have their familiarization exercises. They conduct mock drills. They conduct such kind of activities in schools, colleges, in village communities, in city areas, in panchayats. All these sectors have been well covered by NDRF. And in fact, if you look at the past history, we have been doing it for last 10 to 12 years. And it's being done in a very, very regular, periodic manner. And that is the reason why the people are much more aware today about the disastrous effect of any natural calamity rather than a couple of years back. So they know what is to be done and what is not to be done, and particularly those states which are much more prone to multiple disasters like the one we have. Say the states of Odisha, West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Andhra, all these states are very well aware of such community exercises. I remember when I was DG NDRF, we had the Chennai urban flood where the people were totally concerned about what things to be done and what not to be done. Similarly in J&K, which was the first experience of urban flood, the people came to know about the role of the NDRF and the things they need to do. So all these things are a very dynamic and a very ongoing exercise, and I'm sure that the NDRF along with the state agencies, they must be carrying out such exercises much more in advance rather than doing it right. But as I told you before, that the post-cyclone phase would be much more challenging. There you have to look into the requirements of the people.
Right.
All these things, all the challenges have to be met. The community awareness program have to be taken in a big way that way.
All right, what are the factors that could actually challenge the NDRF post this landfall? What are the threats, the weather threats included, that, that is something that the NDRF and the state governments also need to look into?
Can you come again? I couldn't get your question.
Mr. Singh, I'd like to know what could be the challenges post the landfall that could actually, that challenges not just for NDRF but for the state governments also that need to be looked into now that the landfall has finally taken place.
I have already answered your questions. Post landfall, the bigger challenges lie ahead. The state government has to press all activities into service. The medical, thereby meaning health department, the communication network, the food distribution, the protection of animals through various other things, transport, clearing of roads, those roads particularly leading to such essential services like hospitals and all. So all these things have to be taken care of. And on top of it, you have to look for the safety of the children, safety of the women. Even crimes do take place in such a scenario when you have the shelter home. So all these things have to be taken care of. And these are the challenges particularly not only for the NDRF but also for the state administration. In fact, the state administration in a big way.
Right. Mr. Singh, also, do you think that during these disaster rescue operations, animals always, the rescue of animals tends to take a back seat because human life is always prioritized?
Yes, you're right. A couple of years back, there was no concern for the animal disaster management. In fact, we tried to inculcate that kind of culture in the NDRF, and that is why we carried out a number of training activities. And we have the veterinary doctors, we have so many other agencies which work and which help us. In fact, animal management is a much more challenging job for the NDRF and for such agencies who are involved in that. What happens naturally is that the villagers are very, very reluctant to get them evacuated without their animals. And even taking animals and evacuating animals is a big challenge. How do you transport them? What kind of vehicles are required? So all these things have to be taken. But over the last couple of months and years, there has been a lot of emphasis on animal disaster management. And that is the reason that we have been able to save lots of animals' lives during such calamities, whether it's cyclone, whether it's flood, whether it's states like UP, Bihar, or Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, or for that matter, Odisha, Tamil Nadu, all these places have witnessed such kind of protection of animals during such natural disasters.
All right, Mr. Singh, I would also like to gain some insight into the cyclone. For that, let me go across to Dr. Tyagi, who is joining us from the WION studios. Doctor, for all our international viewers who are joining in, who are not relatively very familiar with the geography of India, why are most of the cyclones in India originating from the east coast, especially the Bay of Bengal, compared to the Arabian Sea?
See, essentially, the origin of cyclone is because of the warm oceans, okay, and the geography of the ocean bed. Bay of Bengal temperatures are higher than the Arabian Sea, and most of these cyclones also form because of the remnants of the typhoons and the hurricanes which come from the South China Sea and from the Pacific. So the Bay of Bengal is potent because of these two reasons. One is that all those remnants of the hurricanes or the typhoons or the systems coming from the Pacific to the Bay of Bengal. Second, the warm water and is the close topography and the bathymetry of the Bay of Bengal, which creates a favorable situation for the formation of cyclone as compared to Arabian Sea. And particularly, unlike other seas, here in India we have two seasons of the cyclones formation. One is the pre-monsoon, which is April-May, and post-monsoon, which is October-November, which is the primary cyclone season, because during the monsoon, because of strong wind shear and cooling because of the rains, the cyclones normally don't form. Whereas in other oceans, we do get the typhoons, hurricanes during the monsoon season, that is month from June to September.
Also, how do you analyze the impact of global warming on cyclones. Do you think that has led to the severity and the frequency of cyclones?
Severity part, yes. Now already people have started commenting that because of the higher temperature, more moisture capacity in the cyclones, the severity is going to increase. As far as frequency is concerned, still no definite trend has been observed. Because as far as Indian Ocean is concerned, our frequency is much lower as compared to the other oceans. So the real trend we are not able to establish. But positively, in last couple of years, last decade, because of the global warming, the formation of cyclones on their tracks have been rather unusual. See, the last year we had the first cyclone forming in the month of January, which normally does not take place. The Oki cyclone, which hit Sri Lanka and Kerala, was very unusual part of it. We had two cyclones, one in Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal. So these are the events which are unusual, and some of this could be contributed to global warming also.
All right, let's also, sir, have a look at how we are looking at, various coordinated efforts that have been taking place. For now, Dr. Tyagi, thank you so much for joining us and bringing us all your precious perspective. And now let's, all right, Dr. Tyagi, I think I may request your company for some more time. Let me go across to Mr. O.P. Singh, who's been joining us live from Lucknow. Mr. Singh, thank you so much for bringing us your precious time and your perspective on the cyclone latest. Moving on, the Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard and disaster management agencies are fully prepared and on standby, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday has also reviewed preparedness for Cyclone Fani with his senior-most officials. The Indian Coast Guard also positioned 34 disaster relief teams at Vizag, Chennai, Paradeep, Gopalpur, Haldia and Kolkata, besides 4 Coast Guard ships at Vizag and Chennai. The Navy, Air Force and National Disaster Response Force and the Coast Guard were on standby. 13 Navy aircraft are on standby in Visakhapatnam to carry out damage assessment and relief distribution. The NDRF has deployed 28 teams in Odisha, 12 in Andhra Pradesh and 6 teams in West Bengal. Now, 2 ships and 2 Chetak helicopters have also been ready for service. Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik also asked senior officers to oversee relief rescue operations, as Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu reviewed his officials' preparedness and promised all possible help to Odisha. So that was an adequate level of preparedness that we were also informed by Mr. O.P. Singh earlier. It is the preparedness, Dr. Tyagi, that has led to India being able to combat this cyclone with all possible measures and inter-coordination also of the NDRF, and with relatively accurate warnings coming in from the Indian Met Department too.
Yes, there is no doubt about it. It's not only this cyclone. I think in last decade all the cyclones have been well predicted, and that has given confidence to the people operating the field, and very optimum and focused evacuation takes place now. It's not, see, earlier the warning used to be like said entire from the Tamil Nadu to West Bengal in one go. It's not now. Now we are giving precise. Now this landfall of Puri was predicted 3 days in advance. So you could concentrate the evacuation part and relatively how thinning it is to be done in the outer regions. So the confidence of the forecast is the driving factor for any evacuation process and all that.
Also, Doctor, it would be important to talk about how cyclones, the frequency of cyclones from April till December in India has always remained high, and this could just be the beginning of the cyclones in this season for 2019, of course. Of
course, we have to be ready. May is the month which I told you in the pre-monsoon is the where maximum before the onset of monsoon frequency takes place. So we have to be prepared for another cyclone in the month of May. It is climatological also, it is quite possible. And as I told you, the March and April temperatures of the Bay of Bengal and the Pacific had been on a higher side. So that also gives a possibility that another genesis can take place in the month of May. So we have to be ready. And I am sure with our monitoring systems and the prediction systems, as and when it happens, adequate warning will be provided to all agencies.
All right, Dr. Tyagi, thank you so much for bringing us all those all that perspective and giving us an extensive understanding of Cyclone Fani. Thank you so much for joining us.
And thanks to media for bringing this to limelight and see people on the ground.
It's our duty, sir. Thank you so much for joining us here on WION. Now, speaking of Cyclone Fani, which hit Odisha coast near Puri today morning, that triggered heavy rains in parts of north coastal Andhra Pradesh with gusty winds that uprooted trees and electricity poles. The cyclone moved close to north coastal Andhra Pradesh before it made a landfall in the neighbouring Odisha. According to the Met Department, the cyclone has now moved away from Andhra due to its impact of the gusty winds, with a speed reaching up to 140 kilometers per hour that lashed the coastal area of Srikakulam district. Srikakulam district collector J. Nivas said that 3 houses were damaged due to winds, but there was no loss of life, and about 20,000 people were shifted to 126 relief camps in Srikakulam district. National Disaster Response Force is also carrying out relief operations in the area as heavy downpours have lashed Visakhapatnam. The Indian Railways have cancelled about 100 trains between Visakhapatnam and Howrah on Friday and Saturday. Authorities have also cancelled 22 flights from Visakhapatnam's airport.